Well, welcome back to Let's Talk. Now, my next guest is here to disprove the belief that Freemasonry is all about dodgy handshakes and strange initiation rites. Please welcome Rodney Bignell. Rodney, you've been a Freemason for a number of years.
Morning, Simon. Yes, I have. I first joined the Freemasonry in 1981.
Wow.
A long time ago.
Do you have to be rich to be a Freemason?
I wish it was the case. No, basically, there are a number, of course, who are able to put back into life something that they've managed to get out, which is a great thing to do. But a lot of people start when they are 21 years of age, 22 years of age, and of course, it's just making their way in the world. So, yeah. Wealth is not an issue.
But you've had quite a good life. You worked in the money markets in London.
That's right. Yeah, a too good a life, if you like.
So you've been around money and influential people, I would think, a lot of your life.
That's right. When I joined the money markets and was fortunate enough to be in the right place, right time, in a few places. I'm also a freeman of the City of London and a member of a guild as well. I've worked in Hong Kong, Singapore, wow. New York, Chicago. So I've been very fortunate, and Freemasonry is, as I said before, is a chance for me to put something back into life that I was fortunate enough to get out of it.
Did it help your career being a Freemason?
No.
Not at all?
Not at all.
It doesn't help you meet people? It doesn't influence anything?
No, in the City of London, there are people in guilds, and of course there are people in Masonry, but the two never really get together. Most of my Freemasonry is local. I lived in Bishop Stortford.
Oh, right.
Which, of course, is a nice little market town, but well out the way of London.
Yeah. It's always had... I wouldn't say bad press, but people who aren't a Freemason are always a little bit suspicious of people like you. Why do you think that is?
It's commonly known as not a secret society, but a society of secrets, and there are very many things. If you look at Freemason when it first started, nothing was written, and so many hundreds of years ago, and people then used signs or tokens or passwords in order that they would know where they were and how they got their wages for the job that they did, which was of course masonry. So it's grown with a bit of it then went from being operative to inoperative, and it's grown then with a bit of a myth around it, and of course it's been the subject of various political and other people's targets from time to time, and they don't really it's been Grand Lodge's ideas that we don't have to defend anything we haven't done wrong, and so perhaps...
Do you think that's half the problem, though? Do you think that your PR department's got it wrong?
Well, there have been plenty of opportunities to say what we do and shout out as loud as we wish. In Spain, there is a little bit more publicity, perhaps, than there is in England. I mean, it's little known in England that Freemasonry is the second largest contributor to charities after the lottery. Yeah. In Spain, it's up and coming, and if you look in the local papers now, there's plenty to find Freemasons that good works that they're doing. One you may have seen is that we've just bought our first or put a deposit down for our first ambulance in Valencia. Yeah. So we've given the Red Cross 50,000 with the promise of another 15 for their first ambulance. Yeah. So I'm not sure what else one has to do to beat the drum, as it were.
Does it cause a problem when you're recruiting?
Not really. We have a situation where we are. A candidate would ask us, or we would look at somebody and say, "Oh, do you fancy joining?" And there's the movement, the Masonic movement in Spain is growing at a pace. It's right that there should be in Masonry there's a first, a second, and a third, and they imitate what happened in Egypt all those thousands of years ago for a first, a second, and a third, and. It's right that these traditions are kept and honoured.
So you don't accept everybody?
No.
Definitely not.
No, definitely not. I'm sure in your case, there'll be no problem whatsoever.
I might test you on that.
Yeah.
What is the criteria?
They have to be at least in Spain, 18 years of age minimum. They have to have had no criminal record. They had to be of good standing. They have to have two other brethren who would then first and second them within the lodge and act as supporting them through their Masonic career.
Right.
And that's it. But free men, a mature age, sound judgment, and strict morals.
And a big bank account.
No, fortunately not.
Listen, I'm not here to knock Freemasons, because I know you do a great deal of work for charity, as you've already alluded to. Freemasons had a really rough time in here in Spain, going back in history, didn't they?
They did. Franco outlawed Freemasonry, as is well known, as did other dictators. And after Franco's death, it then re-erupted. But there are great. You may remember there's a guy called Edmundo Ross.
Yes.
And of course he was around and a very good and a very strict Freemason, and was around at Franco's time. And they would hold dining clubs together. And then would sort of talk of better times. And of course, after Franco's death, Freemasonry was then allowed back into the open.
Yeah.
We have a great relationship now with the King of Spain and with the government, and our Grand Master Oscar de la Fonse Ortego promotes Freemasonry very, very well for us in Spain.
You seem to have had a very good life, retirement, if you like. Did you retire early?
I retired at 55 years of age, so 12 years ago. So
yes.
that was, I can recommend it.
Yeah. So what have you been doing with your time?
A bit of Freemasonry. I do some motorcycling. I motorcycled in America once a year, and I then do a trip from Spain where we play guess the mileage, and everybody puts in €10, and we do these 3,500, 4,000 in about 10 days.
Wow.
Which has been brilliant. And we've gone to Italy, back to the UK, circled all around France, all starting off from Spain. So it's great fun.
That's a big part of your life, motorcycling.
It is a reasonable part of my life, yeah. I'm Provincial Grand Secretary of Valencia now, so that's the biggest part of my life.
Yeah. And golf, I imagine, is another pastime you enjoy?
Yeah, golf. I live on a golf course, so it'd be churlish not to play, wouldn't it?
Well, it would be, really. But yes, retiring at the age of 55. So you've obviously done well in your life.
Yeah. I ended up as a partner in a money brokers, which is one of the top. Well, it is the top money brokers in the world, and one of the top 10 in the UK companies. So they looked after me quite well.
You're loaded. So why choose Spain? Because presumably you almost had the world as your oyster. Why choose Spain?
I went onto the website and I looked at the healthiest climate in Europe. And it came from the World Health Authority, and it came out as Torrevieja. So I had a thunder round. I went down to Marbella, and I went to other places, and I just decided, well, okay, we'll live here.
Do you regret that move? Looking back now, is there anywhere else you would have liked to have retired to?
Not really. I still travel a lot, as in if and when I want to. But I enjoy being around here. My children actually came to find me, so they live out here as well. And I have no close relatives living in the UK, so it makes perfect sense to live here.
Coming from a financial background, you must be looking at all the shenanigans going on in the City of London at the moment with some keen interest. What's your take on the banks and all that's going on?
Well, I was involved very early on with the Bank of England in forming these LIBOR committees.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I'm a member of the FSA as well. But I can't understand some of what's gone on, in as much as we would say get 8 banks and ask them what LIBOR might be on that day in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 1 year. And they would then give us their rates. We would then go to all the banks, strike out the top, strike out the bottom, and do the mean average of them all. So whilst I guess there must have been a little fixing, I'm not sure how many people have been disadvantaged in this.
So this has been going on for years?
Oh, I'm afraid so.
Wow.
Yeah.
LIBOR, we should explain, this is the rate that banks lend to each other, is it?
It's the London Interbank Offered Rate.
Right.
So you would go along to, say, Barclays Bank and say, how would you offer 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, or 1 year into the money markets at your best rate, and they would then give those rates. This would have a big impact on the swap values because swaps are fixed against floating, so I don't want to get too...
No, please don't.
Okay.
Finance is like speaking Russian to me. It just goes over my head. But as I say, you must be looking at it. And does it sadden you the way the banks are being perceived and the way they've acted, or do you think it's just the way of the world?
I think banks have forgotten how to bank.
Yeah.
If I look at banks now, there was a bank manager, and his business will be lending to people and perhaps even advice. If you're in a bad position, banking wise or trader wise, the only way to get out of that position is to trade yourself out of it, not just sit there, pull up the drawbridge and let the world go by, which is, I'm afraid, the way that the large banks are going. They're not trying to trade themselves out of the situation that they've stupidly found themselves in. Do
you think things will get better after this? Do you think they'll actually learn a lesson?
I think the banks will learn a lesson, but I think the rating companies need to learn a lesson as well, Standard and Poor's, people like that, because they are instrumental in some of this going wrong, because they rated the swaps and the options initially against the properties that went bust in California.
Yeah.
So they must have some part to answer as well.
Yeah. And what do you see the financial situation of Spain being in a few years' time? I know, Standard and Poor's, you mentioned, have rated most of the banks over here as junk, I think. Do you think they'll ever be any higher than junk?
I think the Spanish banks probably need to learn how to trade a bit better.
But are we safe having our money in banks in Spain?
Ooh. Are you going to come back at me on this one?
Well, you're my new financial advisor.
Right. I would think so. Certainly you've got Santander, a massive bank with huge resources. Don't see them going under, and the savings banks as well. One thing that Spain might not have lots of money, but it has lots of sunshine. And I noticed that yet again, Spain is the most popular place to visit. So that's one way that they could end up inadvertently trading themselves out of the situation they're in. Yeah. And there are a lot of people buying houses still.
Well, Russians.
Yeah, Russian and Scandinavians and anybody who's rained on a lot.
Yeah. Where do you keep your money?
Sorry?
Where do you keep your money? You're not going to tell me?
No.
In a Spanish bank?
I have some in the Spanish bank, yes, certainly. And actually, Canadians. Yep, Canadians have come out of this. There's still A's and A pluses, the RBCs and the CIBCs. They're still doing well.
Yeah. Listen, I've had fun talking to you. Thank you very much. If anyone wanted to find out more about the Freemasons, can they contact you, or do you contact them?
Simon, they can contact me. I have an email address, which is sec@glpvalencia.com. And we have a website, which is www.glpvalencia.com. I'm contactable on either of those addresses.
Brilliant. We'll have that at the bottom of the screen, so if anyone's interested to find out more about the Freemasons here in Spain, they can contact you. Rodney, it's been fun chatting to you. Thank you.
Thanks for inviting me.
Hope you've enjoyed it as well. If you enjoyed the programme and would like to be sitting here where Rodney is, all you have to do is contact us here at the studio. info@vivatv.es. info@vivatv.es. Just tell us all about yourself, and who knows, you may be in here in the studio one day. That's it for Let's Talk. We'll be back very soon with some more.